moving on to your, like, for instance, you also you wrote for a play for the Fringe Festival. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had a great time with that, actually. I had been up in New York. In fact, when your friend comes in here in a minute, mention New York because I lived there for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the July 4th Coney Island hot dog eating contest at Nathan's, which is very famous. And I watched the whole thing and I wrote down some notes. And I decided, well, I'm going to write something about this when I get back to Texas. So I ended up writing a play, which was it's called Live 8, which is basically an excessive eating contest in Africa with a starving guy from Africa watching people overeat hot dogs and things like that. And it's kind of a grim, satirical look at American excess. But it ended up I got a review down there in Houston in the Chronicle with Ken Hoffman wrote about it, and ended up winning the Critics' Choice in that year of the Fringe Festival. So it was really good. And, it took me back to writing plays because that's what I started doing when I was about middle school year. I wrote a couple plays for the local junior high school, middle school.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So what can you tell us about your life as a musician? Like, you played in, in places in Austin.
Yeah.
You've played in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I bet you that's really exciting. So
what can you
think about that?
Well, I can tell you that when you start out as a poet and you're reading in front of bands, which I was doing, and also at bookstores, you get a little bit of attention. But when you start playing in a band, it's a whole other level of attention. The generation I came from and your generation, I think, are very musically oriented, and they are the messages that come through music resonate more than on the printed word. And so when you started playing in bands, when I started playing in bands, I would notice that I got a lot more attention, and pictures in the paper, and people see you on 6th Street and go, hey, I like your band, and you never get that as a poet, really.
Right.
And of course, the girls, they're nice, and the attention that people give you. And, it's an interesting thing because there's a bond with poets and writers. But there's also a bond with musicians, and musicians kind of have an inherent respect for other musicians. And really, it's a little bit less cutthroat than the poetry. I know that in grad school, anyway, everybody had their knives out for their colleagues. And I was, happy to see when I met you and Zach and some other folks in your group that you were more supportive of each other than, competitive. Because I've always believed that art isn't a competition. And I've liked the vibe of the musicians. It was different from literary vibe. But, you get burned out, and the business itself has got a lot of problems with it. They cheat people out of their money, and you end up getting burned in a variety of ways. So I was kind of ready to leave it when I got out of it in the mid to late 90s. And I gave it up for about 20 years, and I've only gone back to it in about the last 5 years.
Awesome. So you had a song recently that went viral about George Floyd. What was the process like, putting that together and getting that out into the world?
Yeah, sure. I'll be glad to talk about that. My current producer is Spider Angelo out of Sound Street Studios in Houston, excuse me. Sound Street in Houston with Spider Angelo. I've been working with him for about 5 years. And when the George Floyd thing happened, everybody was watching it on television and seeing how horrific it was. And I started kind of sketching out some lines about it. And I had been listening, oddly enough, at the same time to some early Bob Dylan with the protest music. And so I kind of modeled the song on Hurricane, which is one of Dylan's protest songs from the 70s. And I wrote it out, and I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to drive into Houston and record this. And I got a hold of Spider. And so we spent all night one night. I sat at the piano and started working out the music to the lyrics and revised it and did about 4 takes of it till we got a take we liked. And then Spider did some of his magic as a producer and added in some elements, gave me some advice on breaks. And we got it done. And by sunrise of the next morning, we had this song. And so I sent it off to you, and we put it up, and it suddenly a few days later, it had like 5,000 hits on SoundCloud. I think it's up to about 20,000 hits right now. I haven't checked it in a while. But yeah, it was interesting to see the reactions too, because when you do stuff live and you have a crowd in front of you, you can immediately see if they like it. Some of them might dance or come run up to the stage, or others might put their fingers in their ears. But when you're putting it out, on a SoundCloud, which is kind of a different experience for me, you don't really know what's going to happen. So when you read the comments, there was some very supportive people. Most decent people know that what happened there was wrong, no matter what happens with this trial that's going on. But there were trolls too, who were, negative and bringing their energy that was not conducive to social change. So it was interesting to read the comments, and I was very happy to get that done because I just felt very inspired, and I thought the need to say something about it, as a lot of people did. So it was a good process. I enjoyed it.
That's excellent. I just wanted to say my battery on my computer died temporarily. I had to plug it back in, and so I was off the charts for a few minutes there, but I am back now. And so I missed a lot of what you said, but it's good that I caught that you were saying you wanted to put something positive out there. And of course, some of the comments on the piece were not very positive to the racial tensions going on right now. But yeah, I remember that very well, and I was a little disappointed in people myself at that point. But it's a very good song. I really
Thank you.
Appreciated it. I find it interesting that you're classically trained. You're a lawyer. You're a creative writer. What brings you into all these disciplines? I mean, there's so many, so much multifaceted to Ken Jones, as a person. So what draws you into all that?
Yeah, I've been asked that before, like what creates the drive in somebody, and I don't really have an answer. I mean, I guess growing up in a small town and being isolated, I kind of wanted to get out and do as much as I could and see the world, which I have, and see America, which I have, and also create in as many ways as possible. And, it's like you too, with all your philosophy. And I know you and I will exchange emails about philosophical topics sometimes. And, if your mind is restless and you want to wander the universe, then you're never really going to be tired or quit the questing. The old gag about life isn't the destination, it's the journey. I think that drove me a lot. And once you're kind of doing it, I'm a lifer. I had a buddy in LA in the bands who would say, we're all lifers. It doesn't matter whether we're going to be Axl Rose or a bum in the street. We'll be doing this our whole lives. And right. I really do think that's kind of how I work, not only creatively with my music, but also with just the intellectual exercises of life, and but I have friends who aren't driven, and it's funny because they tend to think it's strange, like I had a good buddy who worked on my videos and unfortunately passed away, Nelson Parrot, God rest his soul, but he used to tell me, I just don't have your drive. I don't understand where it comes from. And I guess it's a mystery in some ways why people are driven to do what they do. So
and maybe it's that mystery that drives the mystery, the search and the quest for understanding in the first place. I mean, that's my experiences. I'm kind of concerned and interested in what I am and what makes me me and what makes the world composed the way it is and all that. And that type, you read into philosophy, and it doesn't really satisfy your curiosity so much. You have this insatiable curiosity. There's there's a lot of interesting quotes about people that are highly successful and how much they read and how much they study things, and just have this restless mind, as you said, and I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be kind of tiresome.
Yeah, well, it does get a little boring for the people around you too. Some mornings I'll just wake up and start spewing shit, and my girlfriend's like, not right now, it's too early, but yeah, but I have right. It's a funny thing though, the old why, answering the question why. So I had a line one time when I was younger: accept the final why as why not, then never give it another thought. But of course you can't not give it another thought. Right. So why, answering that question why is a lifelong process.
So would you like to share a poem or two with us from your new
Yeah,
collection? So
I would.
do a
I
little
would love to.
self-promotion. All right,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That's
So
great.
this is it. This is the poems,
I
and
love that title.
yeah, yeah. That obviously it refers to some of the recent situations, but as we've discussed, that I have a more libertarian bent, so I don't want to get
Me as
political
well, yeah.
today. But I think
Right,
free
I
speech is a
understand.
value.
Yes,
And so I
absolutely.
am going to read two poems. And this one has got some politics in it, but it's also got some philosophy. So this one's called Evolved Features. Follow where the line allows. Let the poem take you beyond meaning to somewhere only language goes. When freed of schemes to hoe, Roe versus Wade, 20 million aborted human eggs. Like caviar from a sturgeon, more cars for the surgeon. What difference is intersectionality if interconnectedness links all creatures with evolved features? Examine a bat's skeleton. Fine bones like a human. Pig transplant so close, but what about zoonosis? Viral leaps flew these peeps. Kiss my coccyx, creationists. I say, fix the caviar shortage by harvesting the eggs of the aborted.
That's powerful.
I'm not even sure what it means. I don't really advocate cannibalism.
Right, of course, yeah.
There's
it's
a lot
of pre-society tendency, pre-civilization.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Unless I want to move to Papua New Guinea, I don't think I will. But in any event, you want one more because I got another one.
Go for it.
All right, I want to do this one for Chris Carmona because you asked me about the archive in Brownsville, and I haven't seen Chris in a while. I know he's put out a couple well-regarded books. And Chris, wherever you are, I think I'm going to try to send this to you. We need to hook up again soon. I know he was down there in Brownsville teaching, and then he got moved to the administrative side of things. But I think his second book has been out for a year or two now, but I haven't seen him in a while. So this one I wrote for Chris Carmona when we were hanging out together down there. And politically enough, it's called White Privilege for Chris Carmona. And here is the quote, and this is a Aztec and native god, which I may mispronounce, but it's Coyolixaquatqui, the song heard only by dreamers, those who inhabit the night and sing its songs, from Chris Carmona. So here's my take. I live in giving midnight. Burn its tune into my spirit. I thrive in starkest darkness, breaking star fire, seeking to spirit. Those who dwell in daylight's hell, flee from me and fear it. My heart's lava, too volcanic, for weak wilting flowers, craving sun's solace. This black night fever's all I've got, though the foolish may take me for soulless. In truth, I walk this dying planet, great spirit's desperate conduit, Gaia's final strangled cry, torqued and morphed through my third eye. So, as you forlornly ask why, I answers, look to the sky.
Excellent. What I like about your work is most of the sound play of the words. There's a little bit of alliteration, a little bit of bouncing around of the various linguistic elements, and I find that fascinating. And you also deal with a lot of social themes, and you combine those with a lot of scientific, evolution, political. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack there. It's very it fascinates me. I like your work for that reason, because there's so much to it, but on the surface if you just read the poem as a poem, it's not too complicated. You can kind of get an idea of something from it. But when you look into the way that, especially when you read it out loud, you hear the way that the words kind of hit each other, and kind of, there's like a free competition amongst the words. It's pretty interesting.
That's a really good comment, because when I was younger and I kind of evolved my adult style in grad school, I was tending to go for, I wanted something that was not traditional, but use the traditional elements of poesy and poetry to communicate. So I really was rebelling against, I was kind of a new formalist in a way, although I was rebelling against the, standard free verse confessional of the people before me, the generation before me. But I also definitely deliberately came up with this style where I use sprung rhythms and alliteration and assonance and consonants and rhyme in sort of a different way. It's almost like a deconstructive version of a traditional device. So I use traditional devices to give kind of radical philosophical content. And then as time went on, I was using so many kind of, $10 words that I would show regular people who aren't poets and scholars the work, and they would be like, well, I just don't understand it. You use too many big words. So as I moved forward, I began to kind of clarify or simplify the language, but still keep those elements in it. So like you said, my current iteration in the last 10 years or 15 years or so, I've been really trying to do clear sounding lyrics that, as you say, have a simple veneer, but have a lot of complexity underneath, both content wise and structurally.
Right. And that's what I perceive in the poems is there's a lot of complexity, but at the same time, in reading it, you can enjoy the sounds, you can enjoy the flow without really necessarily grasping, exactly what the inner soul of the poem is, or what it's actually conveying meaning wise. And I think that's good, because then you can get an academic reading it and go, okay, well, this is, got these elements. And then you can get somebody on the street reading it and say, well, I don't really quite understand this, but I like what it sounds like. It's like a music piece,
Yeah, well, it's funny, Dustin, because I was always attracted to the sound of poetry. It's why I first got into poetry. And of course, song lyrics the same way. I mean, to me, when people ditched rhyming or ditched pleasant sounding words, it sort of turned poetry into this kind of obscure pursuit. And I'm afraid we see that nowadays, which is why I'm not really that enamored of the current zeitgeist in terms of modern poetry, because so much of it seems to be just observational without any element of meter or rhyme or traditional forms. And it just kind of like what somebody sees in their personal experience, and then combined with what is an essential political correctness, which I think may have gone too far in some corners with this woke movement. But it's important for every voice to be heard and everybody to be treated equally. So I appreciate that sentiment, and I think that's a positive energy. But I think that when you begin to just toss things out simply because the person is a transgendered the pygmy from wherever, it's sort of it loses the point of what the quality is. If the person's writing good stuff, that's fine, but I'd rather deal with big issues, which are also philosophical or social, and I'm not really much in the confessional observational thing. So
yeah, it's not my cup of tea either. I guess a lot of people are appreciating it now, but I don't think it's catching on as much amongst the public. I think in general we have a big wave of narcissism going on in our culture. I mean, it seems like reality TV shows, and from that to everything is just a swath of narcissism, and I don't know where it's coming from, but hopefully it'll tone down and it'll relax a little bit, and we'll go back to a sort of moderation of sorts. So we have about 4 minutes or so into the program before we close, and if you want to say anything to the your fellow poets, writers, people in the viewing public.
Yeah, I would love to say that I want to encourage everybody to create, keep creating, and don't stop creating. I know it's been an isolating time here with COVID and all the issues that have related to it. And I know we haven't been able to do live performances, and these Zoom interactions have their own element of oddness. But in all seriousness, art is not a competition. We should all strive to follow our own muse, and wherever that leads us, just follow it and let it go. There's no excuse not to do something creative every day and continue to work, because all you have when you are gone is what you leave behind you. And I hope those of you who've had children, I haven't been blessed enough to have that, realize that when you give children a spark of creativity, you're also transferring positive knowledge to the future generations. So do your work, do it well, and keep the faith. Life is short, and love your people, love the people that help you, and love humanity as much as you can. Everybody's equal. None of us are better than anybody else. Get that in your head and do your work.
Absolutely. That's very positive resolve to end with. And we're doing the 1 million subscriber challenge. So if everybody out there, just invite your friends to come check out our YouTube station and like our videos and so forth, and tell others about us. And this is Parrot TV Literary Corner, and we're out here supporting poets worldwide, supporting creative artists. We're the only TV station doing this globally, as well as we're looking for people all over the world to talk about their creative pursuits. And so anybody out there, will give you the platform. So be prepared for us to either seek you out, or you can come to us. And I'll be on Facebook. You can find me there, Dustin Pickering, and I should be available. I'm always Facebooking. So anyway, thank you, Ken Jones, and thanks to our viewers.
Hey, thank you, Dustin. But by the way, if you want to see more about my stuff, just go to www.poetken.com or Google PoetKen, and you'll find my website and some other stuff by work. And I want to just say thank you, Dustin, for all the support you've given me these last years. Publishing my books and being a great friend. And I appreciate our friendship, and I hope that we continue forward working together.
Absolutely. And his book just came out from Cyberwit. What was the title again?
It's Sedition, Sorcery, and Blasphemy, Poems About America, cyberwit.net.
Absolutely. So check that out from cyberwit.net, poetken.com. That's where you can find PoetKen. That's PoetKen.com. Thank you very much again, Ken, and thanks to our viewers for checking us out. We will end the session now, and as again, subscribe to the channel, check us out, share it with your friends. Thank you very much, everybody, for this wonderful evening of poetry.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.